since that's our new action name signifying that the save succeeded. Our update course reducer will look slightly different. Again, since state is immutable, we can't simply change the appropriate index in the array. Instead, I'm mapping over the courses, which returns a new array. When I find the course that has the ID that was just changed, I replace it in the array. This is handy since it returns a new array and it allows me to replace a value in the array without changing the array's order. I'm also using the concise arrow syntax here. The return is implied because it's a single expression without curly braces after the arrow. This likely feels odd and confusing to you at first, and trust me, after you work with immutable data for a bit, you'll get very comfortable with these patterns and tools. You'll find that you often use the spread operator, map, filter, and reduce to get things done. Once you understand these built-in JavaScript features, you can accomplish powerful tasks without mutating state. We've now wired up our actions and updated our reducer, so we just need to update Manage Course Page to put this to use. One thing I want to point out before we move on. Did you notice how adding support for create and update was quite quick now that our Redux infrastructure is all set up? See, things are getting easier. Okay, we're back in the Manage Course Page component. Now that we have the actions that we need, we can dispatch the save course action when the user saves a course. So let's import the save course action. And then add it down here to map dispatch to props. And notice how easy it is to add with the object style of map dispatch to props. We should also jump up here and declare it on our prop types. Now that we're passing the bound saveCourse function into the component, let's destructure saveCourse up here at the top. This way, calling saveCourse in our component will reference the saveCourse function that we just configured in map dispatch to props, instead of the plain saveCourse function that's being imported up above. Now we can move down and implement the handle save function. Handle save will accept an event, and inside we want to call event.preventDefault to keep the page from posting back. Then we can call saveCourse and pass it the course that's available in state. Remember, saveCourse is getting passed in on props, and it's being bound to dispatch via our map dispatch to props declaration below. Again, this can be confusing because it's also imported by the same name at the top of this file, but inside this function, our locally scoped bound variable that's being passed in on props takes precedence. If you find this confusing, rewatch the third clip in this module. In that clip, we were using a wildcard import for actions at the beginning. The wildcard import avoids the duplicate naming you see here in exchange for a little extra code in map dispatch to props. Now we can pass on save to our course form. Hit save and bam, that should do the trick. And if it doesn't, I'm going to throw my mouse across the room. I mean, come on, we just wrote a lot of code together. I can't afford public failure at this point. Let's jump over to the browser and see if I can keep my job. So let's load up the course page. And we'll have to change the URL manually because we don't have a way to navigate here directly yet. I'll put in a test title, select an author, and put in a test category. When I hit save, nothing happens, and that's because we haven't set up any kind of confirmation or redirect yet. There's no way to navigate. Let's put an Add Course button on the Courses page. In the next two clips, I'm going to show two different ways to handle redirects with React Router. In this clip, we'll use React Router's redirect component. So first, we're going to import redirect from React Router DOM. And now let's come down into the render function where we can add our button. I'm going to place the button right here below the header. I've specified some Bootstrap styles so it looks nice, and also an inline style because, well, I'm a total rebel. On click, I'm setting redirect to add course page to true. So let's go up to the top and add this value to state. Again, instead of a constructor, I'm using a class field to save some typing. Yes, I'm that lazy. Now, we can use this state value in render to enable the redirect when redirect to add course page is true. So let's handle this right up above the header, although the exact placement doesn't matter much. Yes, this feels weird at first. Render has a side effect here. If the value in state is true, it will redirect to the add course URL. We're using JavaScript's logical AND operator to pull this off, so the right-hand side will only evaluate if the left-hand side is true. If this line really makes you angry, don't worry. I'll show you a different way to handle this in the next clip. Let's hit save though and see if this works. Courses page now has an Add Course button, and when I click it, I'm successfully redirected. And see if this works. Courses page now has it worked on the first try. I shouldn't act so surprised. Next, let's set up a redirect to the course list when a course is saved. Our save works great, but we should redirect the user back to the list of courses when the save is complete. In this case, I'm going to show a different way to handle redirects via React Router. Notice that I'm back in Manage Course page. This time, let's use React Router's history to handle a redirect. Our call to the save course thunk returns a promise, so we can chain a .then onto this call. Inside the then, we can call history.push and redirect to /courses. So this says, after the save is done, use React Router's history to change the URL to the course list page. For this to work, we need to destructure history at the top because it's being passed in on props. We also need to declare this down here on prop types. Coming from. Well, any component that's loaded via a React Router route gets the history object passed in automatically. Isn't that nice of React Router? So kind. Okay, let's try it out. I'm over on the Add Course page. Let's end successfully. Existing course, fix that next using map state to props. Form. Let's fix first. We have a bigger problem. If you click on any existing course, it doesn't populate the form. Let's fix that. As we just saw, if someone clicks an existing course, the form isn't populated. So let's write some code to make that work. In Redux, that means we have some work to do in map state to props. Right now, we're always passing an empty course to our container component. Notice that I'm referencing new course right here. What we need to do is look at the URL and determine if the user is trying to add a new course or edit an existing course. To get parameters from the URL, there's a handy second parameter on map state to props. It's called ownProps. This is automatically populated by Redux. OwnProps lets us access our component's props. So in this case, it means that we can access some routing-related props that are populated by React Router based on the route defined for this component. So to read the course slug from the URL, we can add a single line of code. I'll say const slug equals ownProps.match params slug. Now let me clarify why this line works. If we look over in app.js, we can see that the route for this component says that the second segment of the URL has a placeholder that represents the slug. This means that it will be available on ownProps.match.params.slug. So now we want to set the course to the requested course if there's a slug in the URL, or to an empty course otherwise. We can do that like this. Declare a constant for the course, and we'll say if there's a slug, we want to get a course by slug. This function doesn't exist yet, so we'll need to create it, but we'll pass this function state.courses and the slug. Otherwise, we'll set it to a new course. So if the user is requesting an existing course, we need to get the course that they requested. How do we do that? Well, it should be available in state, so we just need to pluck the right course out of state on this line. Let's put this logic in a separate function for readability. I'll place the function right here above map state to props. There we There we go. This function accepts the list of courses and the course slug that we're looking for. I use JavaScript's built-in find method to get the course requested. And if it happens to not be found, then I just return null. Functions like this are commonly called selectors. Why? Because it selects data from the Redux store. You could also place this function in the course reducer so that it could be called by other components. For performance, you could even memoize the response with a library like update this line and remove the right-hand side altogether, because now we are setting course to course. Up here. Again, I could say course right here, but it would just be redundant on a course. As we can see, it doesn't work. Let's open up the terminal and see if it gives us any hint. We don't see any errors down here in the browser. We do have a warning about set errors, but you can ignore that because point over here in the code, we can see what the problem is. empty because our API call hasn't completed yet. Remember, it's not going to find any courses yet. State.courses.length is greater than 0, then we want to get the course by slug. Otherwise, we will return the new course. So let's remove our debugger. This should fix our problem. Remember, map state to props will run each time the Redux store's state changes. So when there are courses finally available, then we will get the course by slug. And good shape. However, there is a bug lurking here. What if I try to load a specific course page directly? Let's click on one of the courses. And now, if I load this page directly, I'll just come up here to the URL and hit enter. Notice that it's not populating the form. Now, this can seem confusing at first, but it's an easy mistake to make. Remember, over here in Manage Course Page, this course that we're passing down to course form is declared in state up here at the top. So it is a copy of props.course. And we needed to make that copy so that we could hold data in state as we edited the course. So hopefully a light bulb just came on. See, state is being initialized right here in this useState call, and this happens on initial load before the list of courses is available. So this logic on line 18 is performed once based on the course data that's available when the component is mounted. The problem is when the component is mounted, no course data is available quite yet. It's an asynchronous call. There are multiple ways to solve this issue. Let's explore the options next. We have the course form populating in some cases, but it still doesn't populate when we load the page directly. Why? Well, because when the props change, we need to update our component state. This can be easily solved by tweaking our useEffect hook. Right now, the useEffect hook only runs once when the component mounts. Instead, we want it to run any time that a new course is passed in on props. This way, up here, we can say that if we do have courses available, we would like to set our course and state to the course passed in on props. So this will copy the course passed in on props over into state anytime that a new course is passed in on props. Another solution to consider would be to declare a key on the route for this component up in app.js so that the component would remount when the key changes. But that's more work and likely more confusing, so I'm going to stick with this approach. You can now load the form directly and it populates. Nice. So we still have some we are so far, and this module, we enhanced our application by creating a dedicated page for adding and editing, create reusable, extract away the markup, app state to and the user state and reduce asynchronous error handling